So today our agenda is talking about the Claris Engage videos, their presentations, and I think, and I would love to hear from the group what our kind of goals and objectives of today's meeting are. Um, I know one objective of mine is to come away with kind of some big hitter presentations that people in the group felt were really worthwhile watching to go and watch. Are there any other kind of goals or expectations for today that we should try to reach from the group?
If
Now
somebody
that
watched all of
now that
those
the
videos,
videos
I'm going to
are
be amazed.
available, now that the videos are available to everybody, it's like it's a little more open than. Were you there? Did you see?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think the idea is I think I counted 52 videos. So I'm sure not all 52 videos are worth watching. So hopefully collectively as a group here, we've watched, between the 20 of us, we've watched a number of those videos to tell the rest of the group, yes, no, yes, this one's worth watching and why. And we can come away with this having some knowledge of what videos are worth watching. Looks like we see Robert is trying to join, but I think we're probably at a quota. So gonna kind of maybe a good idea for kind of introductions is as we kind of walk around, you introduce yourself and then name the video or the presentation that you found most interesting that you've watched so far. We can get going that way. How does that sound?
Good.
Good. All right. Uh, Paul Davis, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. Well, I'm a FileMaker developer for a long time here in Westport, Connecticut. I watched all of the AI-related videos and all of the integration videos. I'd say in general, all of the AI ones were interesting, but if you had already been doing stuff with ChatGPT or some of the other systems, I didn't find very much new in them. But if you're new to the area, it was they were good. The best one I thought was the AI in business, which doesn't tell you how to do things in FileMaker using ChatGPT or something like that, but it has a lot of very good pointers about what to do with AI in a business application and mostly what not to do.
And that was the Chris Ippolite one, right? Paul?
Pardon?
That was all with Chris Ippolite?
Yes. I can never pronounce his last name, but Chris will do.
Okay, cool. Um, Beverly, how about you?
I watched a few that I didn't get to attend, but I had seen most of the AI videos, and then the studio sessions. I went to those. There are a couple business ones I went to, but what was in the AI was like, we're making changes, but we can't really tell you what they are, which is okay. you know, we know something is coming around when they do the next release. So I think it was more or less trying to get people saying, here's what you can do beyond what's there in current product, and here's some ideas of what you might do with AI if you haven't studied it all or thought about it. So I think I took that with, you're not really showing us under the hood, although Wade's session was kind of good. I'm trying to think what the name of his was. AI Under the Hood.
Got it.
Because he talks about how complex it is for us to actually make a request and have something be the prompt that we actually put out in plain English. How does that translate to what needs to happen under the hood for FileMaker to go out, grab that information from the AI, bring it back, and then give us a fine kind of thing. And it's like a semantic search. It's a real complex equation of trying to match what you're saying with what they're sending back to your FileMaker that says, okay, now find me these records that probably match what you've got to say. So he's going to say, well, here's the calculation. And then, but you don't need to know what it is because we're doing it for you. So that's something under the hood that's coming that I think is going to be pretty cool.
Agreed. Derek, how about yourself?
Yeah. Well, first, for anyone who doesn't know me, Derek, I'm Boston-based, been a FileMaker developer for about 8 years. About 5 of those I've been with Logic. And along with Justin and John, I was privileged to be live at Engage. And I think the one video that still has stuck with me the most, which I was lucky enough to see live, was Ernest Coe's AI video. I don't remember the title. But I think the reason being is, as ashamed as I am to say, before Engage, I hadn't really focused on learning the under the hood aspects of AI, like, really demystifying it for myself. And I think his video was very helpful in that, along with a few others. Ronnie Rios and Chris Epolites was very helpful in, removing the curtain and, I think it made me a lot more comfortable with AI, that it's not some crazy, you have to spend most of your life as a computer scientist just to understand what's going on. So yeah, that's that.
I want
Well,
to
thanks, Derek.
come in. Ernest was AI Foundation.
Right.
And he did allude to what's coming. He's saying, I'm not supposed to tell you, but he does anyway. But I also wanted to remind people that if you get to the video and when you first start it, it'll quickly bring up a box that says download material. So if you haven't done that, go back to the video and grab the materials, because some have not just a slideshow, but additional files and documents that'll help. So that's all. I just want to jump in and remind people.
Yeah,
That's
thanks
a
for that,
good
Beverly.
point.
I was actually going to mention that, but I don't know if I hadn't watched the video. I don't know if they scrubbed that bit, because Ernest, while he was sharing his screen, they haven't scrubbed it. So if you watch that video, there's some script steps that are exposed. I've been using the ETS version. I think the names of those script steps have since been changed,
Yeah.
but you'll get a good indication of what's coming.
What anytime we've seen like Doug Wallace in some of the user groups, he's mentioned the script steps. We're talking a year back. And you're right, they've changed the names of them. But yeah, there's new script steps and functions. And so there's something coming.
Well, I'll be sitting on pins and needles waiting for those to come out. Paul Sprague, how about you? Are you free?
Yeah, I feel like the only one who didn't do the homework. I've been traveling for like a month and I've not seen any of the videos, so I have to apologize. For those who don't know me, Paul Sprague, I'm based in Madison, Connecticut. Been a FileMaker developer since about 1988, I think. And I'm currently working for Quad Graphics in the IT division.
Cool. Steven, how about you?
Okay, I'm Stephen H. Blackwell. I've been involved with FileMaker since FileMaker Plus days. I don't want to even try to calculate how long ago that was. And I want to thank Justin and John for allowing me to come to your meeting. There are two videos, two programs that I think are particularly worthy of note. The first was with Lucy Chen and Clay Makel, FileMaker State of the Union. That is a must to watch. It is on YouTube and it is also on the Claris community, and I will post the links to that in the chat in a few minutes. They described the process that the platform is going through and looked ahead, and really in a fashion that is almost unprecedented. They talked about where they were going and some of the things that may happen. And about an hour into that video, Clay talked some about the future of FileMaker Server. And all developers should take note of that because it will impact and affect them as well as their customer base. And if you are running FileMaker Server on the Macintosh OS, or you have customers or clients that are doing it, you particularly should pay attention to what Clay had to say about, as I said, about an hour into the video. Towards the end, at about an hour and 15, 16 minutes into the video, they dragged up some old guy from the audience and he kept telling them to get rid of passwords. But you know, don't you don't have to pay a lot of attention to that. The second second program was done by our esteemed colleague Wim DeCord, and it was a security program, and the basic thrust of it was you need to know that your solution is secure. Wim made the point that FileMaker out of the box is not secure. We have to make it that way, and we are not helping. And it's become very evident, unfortunately, through the winter and spring of this year that there are lots of developers and lots of users who are employing steps and techniques that compromise security, some of them dramatically. So I would encourage you to watch Wim's session as well and download his slides. As we go on through the year, probably going to have some more to say about that, but that's it for today. And momentarily, as I said, I'll post those links.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it seems to always be a battle between security and ease of use that we're always getting in the middle of. The clients want the ease of use, we want the security, the higher ups want the security, but the end users want the ease of use, and you have to play around with that. So I'm sure Wim's video does a lot in helping explain what we can do to make that process work better, and probably what we're doing wrong in that case. John Mathewson, how about you?
I'm John Mathewson. I'm founder of, actually co-founder, but remaining founder of Geologic. Been doing FileMaker since '95, I think. And anyways, I was also at Engage, really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of the keynote. I watched that on video again, and I thought it was really good. My favorite session by a mile was the Ernest Coe session. For me, it hit me right in the sweet spot of him getting into how AI actually worked. I did not have, I kind of heard about it, and I played with ChatGPT, et cetera, but I had very low awareness of how it actually worked. And I found his description of vectoring and all those details about the actual model and some of the resulting opportunities by, for instance, specialized AI, where the need for vectoring is limited because you're dealing with a specific topic. Talked about the advent of devices that are specifically focused around specific functionality, which we're already starting to see and will continue to see. So I thought he gave both a good technical overview of it, but he also gave a sense of kind of where it might go and where the leverage points might be. If you couple that with then Chris Ippolite, which was much more talking about applications he'd developed, things that he'd figured out, and kind of hands-on experience, the two really helped me kind of have a better sense of how we might go about using it. And the only other thing that I thought was very interesting that both talked about was thinking about using AI from more of an interpretive standpoint than worrying about the training side of it, which, and with training being the, kind of the much more expensive side of the equation. I had always, when I first saw those models that were distributed, I think with FileMaker 18, I say, okay, how do you train these things? Like, you got all this data, how do you go about training it? And what you realize that a lot of the work that people are doing are using models that are already trained, and then adapting them for uses in FileMakers, which is a lot more accessible, essentially, for us all. So I thought those were really valuable sessions. In terms of the keynote, what I thought was really valuable was just kind of seeing that the commitment to the broader platform, and really getting much more serious about web integration and extending out to, using the 3 elements of the platform to extend to a much broader usage base, which we find very exciting. So those are my main takeaways.
Thanks, John. Tad.
All right, is that me?
Hi. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Was that Tad or Pat?
I'm not sure who you said.
Tad.
Tad. Oh, hi. My name's Tad Adcox. I'm, I think, the newest member of the Geologic team. I'm based in Pittsburgh. And I wanted to first off just sort of add on to what a couple people were saying about the Chris Ippolite and Ernest Coe sessions. I sat in on a webinar with both of them, I think maybe 2 weeks back, and was really interested in some of the ways they were talking about AI. I particularly liked something Ernest Coe said at one point, which is this idea of like, don't try to make your AI do everything, don't swing for the fences, focus on like a small problem that it can solve, and solve like realistically. And I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. I think a lot of companies now seem to be trying to like use AI to kind of do everything, to be sort of the everything machine, and it's not necessarily going to be great at that. Chris Ippolite sort of along those lines said, if you're using this as a question answer machine, you're using it wrong. It needs to be more focused. It needs to be more probabilistic. So I thought that was all pretty interesting. As far as the presentations go, 2 that I saw that I liked quite a bit was the Alexis Allen presentation on design. I know she's kind of well known in that sort of field as far as FileMaker goes. But I was really interested in some of the points she made about how using styles and themes consistently and effectively actually cuts down on processing time, in addition to just being sort of a better, sort of more maintainable code base. So I thought that was really interesting. She actually goes in and shows you the CSS and shows you how many more lines of code you're actually building in when you don't use the styles and themes. And it's basically like every time you don't use a theme, every time you don't save a theme, you're adding like just a mound more code to your code base that is sort of abstracted away from us. So we might not think about it, but it ends up cutting into processing time. And then the other presentation that I thought was quite good was Klaus Lavent, I think is how to pronounce his name, a gentleman from Denmark. The audio wasn't great. It was a little, audio was a little touchy, I would say.
Yeah, hard to hear him.
Yeah, but I thought the presentation itself was really good. It was a presentation on developing modular code bases in FileMaker. And that's something I'm really interested in doing is, FileMaker often seems like it wants you to have to repeat yourself, and how can you get away from that? So yeah, how do we start to think about code in these more modular ways so that you don't have to write basically the same thing over and over again in different contexts? So those are my recommendations in addition to the AI stuff.
Thanks, Tad. You mentioned Alexis Allen. I know a number of people here. I've taken the course. I know most of Logic has taken her course. I was also wondering if anybody had started listening to her podcast. John, I think that you said that you've seen it or started.
I did, but I made people aware of it, but I have to confess I have not dove in yet.
Cool. I listened to I think 2 or 3 of her podcast sessions, and it's a really, I thought, interesting take, and you learn a lot of what you learn in the course through her podcast in a way that is a little bit more overarching and not so FileMaker centric, but still valuable. So I'll post the link in here. I'm sure she would love to have more members of the community watching or listening to her podcast. Kyle, how about you?
Yeah, I've gone through about 5 of the video. Oh, I guess I should introduce myself. Kyle Merck. I'm also a developer here at Logic. I'm based out of California, so I'm still conforming to the C and the CDFG, I guess. I've gotten through 5 videos. I'm going to go through the 2 I wouldn't recommend first. One of them was the performance testing at scale, which I found really felt like it was like a part 3 of a 3-part lecture. I was kind of coming in there and not really understanding. I felt like I jumped into the middle of the thing, didn't really understand it. The audio was bad. The accent on the guy was really thick. And of course, I'm hard of hearing, so I had a real hard time getting through that one. If you're interested in performance testing at scale and you've done that stuff before, you may want to watch it, but I personally wouldn't recommend that one. One of the ones I'm also not recommending for the Keo team, but it was very good. It was called Weekly Wins, Building Trust Through Progressive Improvement. A lot of great tips in there. I mean, unfortunately, I think Keo is already doing all of them already, which is why I'm not recommending it for Keo people, but I would recommend it for the CDFG in general. Along with that, quality is more than testing. And again, I'm sorry, I don't know any of the authors on any of these. I just have the titles. Very good methodology for setting up, and ensuring that your testing goes as expected. And of course, I saw the AI foundations that I think everyone here has already mentioned. Again, give a thumbs up on that. I thought that was great. And I watched the Claris State of the Union, which was generally pretty good. I thought the first 15 minutes, the first speaker was, it was kind of a fictional use case, a use developer talking about how she was going to use all of the new functionality that has come out. Basically, the whole State of the Union was about what new functionality has come into Claris since the last Engage, which was pre-COVID, and the current Engage and what's coming out on the next release. So it was interesting to hear all of that stuff coming out. But it seemed to me you're not going to learn how to do any of this stuff. It's gonna just act like an earworm to remember, oh yeah, I should go check that out and read the white papers on how to actually do this. If you're more reading inclined in the way that you like to learn, you'd probably be better off there. But this is a good overview of all of the new items that have come in the last couple of years and what's coming up next. So I would recommend that one. And was that all 5? Did I mention building trust through progressive improvement? Oh yeah, I think that was the first one I mentioned. So yeah, those are the 5 that I saw and my take on them.
Cool, thanks, Kyle. Robert, how about you?
Hey, hi everyone. So I'm Robert, up here in Montreal, so across the border. Yeah, I really enjoyed Engage. I was able to be at Engage in person for this in-person event that we've been waiting for quite a while. In terms of sessions, I really enjoyed a session from someone at Beeswax. They were talking about a technique they're using where they embed a file in the hosted file, and it gets like deployed locally on the workstation to have some manipulations being done without hitting the server or having any of the chatty behavior between FileMaker and the server, and then sending everything back over the server to get processed, most likely as a transaction. So I had heard about this technique being a thing. It's just it was nice to be able to attend a session by someone who's been using it in production, and aware of what to watch for, and be able to ask questions live and all of those things. So yeah, I would recommend that. I have not leveraged the session yet in my own work, but I'll be on the lookout for occasions to do just that. Another session that I went to that I liked was one with Barbara Cooney about transactions. And I'm fairly familiar with transactions, but it was nice to see like what was their angle, what were they bringing forward on, and how they presented it, and also to see how much traction the topic got in the community, because the room was full. It was actually more than full. Like people were sitting next to the windows and things like that. So so I'm glad that that people have some interest in that, because I think it's often overlooked, and great if more people are intrigued by it.
Cool. Thanks, Robert. And do you remember what the name, the one about embedding files in workstations? Do you remember the name of that session, or who the presenter was?
I'll go check, and I'll make sure to to bring it back in the chat or live. Just give me a moment. I'll retrieve that.
Great, thanks. Patrick.
I'm Patrick Barlow, also at Keologic. I'm based in Utah. So unlike Kyle, I'm not following the C and the CFDG. I haven't watched too many of the Engage videos yet. One that I did watch that I enjoyed, that hasn't been brought up yet, is by, what was his name? Steve Winter, called Webhooked on Claris FileMaker. In this video, in this presentation, he goes through webhooks in general a little bit, but then specifically using FileMaker to receive webhooks. He talks a little bit about just in general what would need to happen for that, but goes over how to set up different, the middleware, who's going to receive the webhook, and how are they going to process that in FileMaker. Goes through, I think, 5 different tools or options, including like Claris Connect and Node-RED. Shows how you would set those up, and then actually demos all of those, sending webhooks. So I thought that was really enlightening and gave some really good options of kind of where to go after his presentation. So I enjoyed that, and I want to do a little bit more research into each of those tools.
Cool. Christian.
Good afternoon. Similar to Paul, I am bad with the homework. I was not able to watch a video, but I'm still interested in everyone's opinions. I decided to join today. And sorry, my name is Cristian Rivera Santiago. I'm a software engineer too at Yale University in Connecticut, but I'm based in Florida. I was previously working with John and the whole Keologic team before joining Yale. Nice to meet everyone.
Howdy, Kay.
Hey.
See you again. Tony.
Hi, everybody. Tony White out of New York City, Brooklyn. I have attended every single developer conference except for the first and the last. In other words, I didn't go to the last one. I also didn't watch any of the videos, but I'm happy to give you my opinion. Hey, fresh eyes. All right, so I didn't watch any videos. I did get a call from somebody at FileMaker. Apparently, I've given some opinions online, and they wanted some opinions on a telephone call. Now, I can't reveal my sources, but it was someone employed by FileMaker. So I'm going to tap some of that and give you some sort of meta comments. I've been lobbying, and perhaps you all could join me and lobby FileMaker. These lovely videos, a lot of work goes into them. I always say the same thing for at least many years. I say, hey, where are the transcripts? Maybe we could use AI. I've heard of this thing called AI. We could use AI for the transcripts. I also lobbied for timestamp links. I'll give you an example. I'll drop something in the chat. I've done them, not that hard. You can use FileMaker to build them. And this, to my point, when I was talking to anyone who'll listen, is that we've got 54 videos. Let's say they're an hour apiece. That would be a lot of hours, and it's hard it's hard to kind of find what you're looking for there. So I would lobby for timestamp links. And then I was listening to the other things. One of the links I'll drop is about themes. I think most of the people are off Classic. I did a about 20-hour deep dive into themes, and I did a presentation for Dig FM about how we moved from Classic to custom, and we flipped from Classic themes, Classic layouts to custom layouts in about less than a minute per, and they look the same. And then we proceed from there. Modular, very interesting topic. I got nothing to say about it. Final thought, testing. I was playing around with a FileMaker database. I was polishing up a FileMaker database, partly inspired by this guy named Tim Neudecker. Maybe you guys have heard of him. And it basically, I'm sitting there thinking, as I'm building, and it's like, wow, custom functions are kind of like functions in that they're functions. And so I built something. Maybe one day I'll release it, do a presentation about it, something like that. And it goes to the topic of testing, which is not that hard. It's just testing on calcs. Testing on scripts, that's a different animal, different topic for a different day. Anyway, thanks for putting on the show. Now I'm going to turn off my mic and start dropping links. Little 3 dots, lower right-hand corner. You can download them for later and then look at them, throw them out. Nice to meet everybody.
Tony, thank you for joining, and thanks for the feedback. I for one would love to see and learn more about converting Classic to custom themes quickly, because I know that can be a pretty taxing process if you have to go through it and don't know what to do.
Yeah, let me, if I may, and this will kind of make everyone, I don't know, feel better about themselves. We did it wrong the first time. You can too, if you want to. Then we figured out how to do it correctly. And it is a true fact that we got it down to 1 minute per. So that's sort of like a one of them movie trailer blurbs. And put up a nice page. Definitely link to some of the stuff that Alexis Allen, pronounce it right, I hope.
Yeah.
That's at the bottom. Some other links that, they broke the links, not me. Anyways, I'll go on, drop it. Thank you for the feedback there.
Thanks, Tony. All right, Tim.
Hello, I'm Tim Sambura, the CEO at Lumenfire, based in Minneapolis, but I'm going to be moving in the next 4 to 5 months to Florida. So I don't know how close I'll be to Christian, but I'll be in Orlando. So I did go to Engage, and I put a link in the chat for we had our local user group in Minneapolis. We did a thing shortly after Engage and kind of gave my thoughts there. I kind of followed the AI track, the entire conference, and so that's mostly what I talked about. I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of the other videos, but I found some of the general sessions really good and really great to be with all the people that hadn't seen in person for many years, actually. So that was good. And I just recently attended the Build, Grow, Learn conference in South Carolina. So that was cool to have another localized conference following up in the US after Engage. So I think it's going to be a normal thing coming up here, that there will be more of these localized conferences. Although I do kind of miss the big 1,500 person at a resort days. Those were a lot of fun for the DEF CONs in the past. So we'll see what happens next year. My guess is that the next Engage is going to be somewhat similar to this last one. That's just my guess, but we'll see.
Well, I know they're still getting feedback from people. So those who really want that 1,500 person mega conference in a resort, if you bark enough and enough people bark, they are listening.
Yeah.
Whether that means that they'll actually make a decision on that, but they definitely are still listening.
Yeah, the difficulty is that the time of year, and I mean, it's like, and those kind of conferences take over a year to plan. You know, it's like you've got to reserve that location well in advance. And my fear is that that hasn't been done already. So it kind of is out of the picture, at least for a year and a half or something, you know what I mean? So the next one, if it's a year from the last one, would be like next February. Being in Minnesota, I did enjoy getting down to the south in the middle of February. That's nice. And all in the past, it's always been in a very hot place in the middle of summer, which makes it more affordable too, you know, for being in a resort. But yeah, we'll see.
Yep. It's definitely a bit of a game that you play, trying to figure all that out. So hopefully they'll figure out and make it work for all of us. So I think we've done everybody except for myself. So my name is Justin Hesser. I'm the president of Keologic. I have been using FileMaker since FileMaker 13. So I'm not sure how many years that is back, but whenever that started, and have been using it with Keologic for 6 years. I have two presentations that are a little bit off the beaten track that I really got a lot out of. I would say they're not FileMaker specific, but I still found them extremely valuable. The first one was Effective Business Scorecards by Mark Richmond. And he basically goes into how you go about figuring out what metrics to track. And you can think about this from the perspective of, you know, your own company trying to figure out, you know, your profit, your sales per quarter, whatever those metrics are, and trying to determine whether those are the right metrics for you to be tracking and how you track them, and whether they're looking back or looking forward. But you can also think about that when working for clients and working for, you know, your customers, and thinking about that from their perspective about what type of metrics they should be looking for, and how you can help them. So I found that really interesting. And the second one that I found interesting was Engineers Who Sell a Framework for Advancing Your Ideas by Bill Bennett. And what I really liked about that was, oftentimes, you know, we're all engineering minded. We're all thinking about things from a structural perspective and thinking about, you know, how I can complete all of my tasks, not thinking about things from the perspective of, you know, being an extrovert and trying to make sales. You know, that's almost like a foreign concept to a lot of developers. But, you know, a lot of us have to do it, especially if you own your own business, or, you know, you end up in a position where you're having to make a sale. And what I really liked about his video, or his presentation, is that he turned that process into engineering task list. So instead of it being this kind of like laissez-faire, you know, I'm just going to go and, you know, say all these things, it's like, when I go to this meeting, these are the 4 objectives I need to have. This is the email I should send at this time. This is what it should include. And I think I haven't downloaded his presentation documents, but I think he included a checklist that he uses for his sales process that I think could be really valuable for those of us who aren't super comfortable in doing that. So that was a presentation that I got a lot out of. So I think we've done everybody in the room. Is there anybody who I've missed? Nope. All right. So seems like the consensus, the majority of the group got a lot out of these AI videos and would like to learn more about AI. How do we feel about moving forward in our next CFDG, kind of either bringing somebody in or maybe some of us going back and to the drawing board and putting together some type of AI tool to play around with and present to the group? Any thoughts on that?
Paul Davis here. Actually, this relates to the Engage as well. One wrap I have on the AI stuff in Engage is that it was overwhelmingly Chat GPT based, OpenAI based. I have a little demo. I'm not going to bother with it, try to show it to you right now, but I could in the future. I actually have gotten into comparing different AI systems in the same application. So I've kind of liked, for example, Mistral was mentioned only once in the AI session, in the Engage things that I saw. I've been using that quite a bit because it is both online, it's on the web, so it's easy to test with it, but it's also open source. So you can bring it down and actually run it on your own device. And there were a lot of discussion about security with AI and not wanting to upload your data and the advantage of doing things on device when you can. I would like to hear more about comparative systems. I have brought down two open source systems, and I find them terribly slow on an M3 Mac Pro. Yeah, slow to the point where you wouldn't use it in a real application. So I'd like to, hear more about what people have done with things besides ChatGPT online.
Yeah, there's some discussion about local LLMs.
Yeah.
And you get into needing the space, one, to have it, and two, the hardware to actually do the really good searches that you might need. So
I'd like to know what that hardware is. Is it an M4 Studio or I don't know.
I'd have to look at my notes, but yeah, that's things that are discussed. I think Ernest talked about a little bit.
He did.
He did. He said
several people
he
did
mentioned
talk
that
about using on-device systems, but they really didn't talk about what you do to make them perform in a useful way.
Well, I think he said that they were paying $2,000 a month for that server. So, I mean, $2,000 a month for a server, you're going to get a really strong server. So that's probably how you do it. So, Paul, you brought up a few different things. One, comparing different AI tools and comparative systems. Is that something that, how far have you gone down that path?
Well, I've only so far I've been comparing Claude and Mistral and Chat GPT. I wanted to do Gemini, but Gemini doesn't have a public API that you can really use at this stage. It's just too complicated to get at it. So I can't really do Gemini, but I have done those three. And I've learned a lot, like the same prompts won't work with all three the way you want them to do. Prompts have to be, system specific. Unfortunately.
Is that something that you would be interested in kind of presenting to the group about?
I won't show it to you today, but easily if you want to do that in the future, it doesn't take very long. And I can show you one of the things that I find kind of annoying is that what this application does is I don't send any data to the system. I do send it, limited schema data and a whole lot of assistant kind of data about what it should and shouldn't do. But in one instance, ChatGPT handles it properly. In the same instance, Mistral generates bad SQL code or SQL code that will not give you the answer that you're looking for. So how do you modify the prompt or the the setup for the prompt, the system part of the prompt, to get Mistral to do what you want it to do? In doing that, you find out that the two systems make different assumptions about what's in the data field, depending on what the name of the data field is. Very annoying. Sorry.
No, sorry. I thought I saw somebody raise their hand. Oh, Tony, you raised your hand.
Yeah, let me jump in on this. A couple things. One, I dropped a link to Ernest Code did a presentation subsequent to the presentation at the conference to the LA group, which is called FM Disc. And it was very interesting, so people can watch that. It's up on YouTube. Dropped a link. I did queue it up to my comment, which was a little bit of a critique. It's good to have a lively conversation about AI. What I'd like to see in AI is use cases besides transcripts that I mentioned. And I know that there are some. I always like, for whatever technology there is, I always like to see the use cases. Like, how am I going to use it? Is it going to help me find a product? Is it going to help me do the first draft of something? I do believe, kind of philosophically, that AI is inherently limited because it is, input output. It's not like it's tapping the Akashi records or anything like that. It's whatever it's programmed. It's all derivative. So I think that people should keep in mind that this isn't where a flash of insight is going to come from. But that said, what are the use cases? What are the practical data? What is the business problem or problems that I'm going to solve? And I can think of some. I think it's mostly, like simple data, like, hey, I want to build my database. I want a list of all the politicians in my jurisdiction. I think AI is capable of doing that. I wouldn't ask its opinion on anything because it's programmed by programmers with bias on anything that's non-factual.
Yeah.
Let me think, what else was there? Something else, but I'll come back on it.
Cool.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I in the chat put the link to the Claris community, Claris AI. Ronnie Rios right away had posted his sample files that he used for the conference. And there are a couple of different use cases in there, writing calculations using natural language. Like I say, there's 4 different samples that he's got that kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what you can do. And I think that probably helps.
Hey, Bev, that's an interesting one, and thank you. Let me just respond to that. The calculations, in terms of FileMaker as a development environment, I have seen the calculation and the SQL queries as examples, and I think those are valid, although a lot of us will have, most of the calculations we need, and there's the custom functions that are out there. A little bit of a dog's breakfast in terms of all the different naming conventions and coding styles on the Brian Denning website. Hey, that's the way it goes. Scripting is difficult in FileMaker because there's no data model that's being tapped into. Nobody's fed AI with the XML representations of the various script steps. Therefore, AI doesn't have the ability to write FileMaker scripts, which are, binary on the top end and text underneath.
And the XML isn't going to help because it doesn't have the text representation of the script step, as you would see if you printed it or you looked in the the script dialogue.
Right.
So the XML is going to be not helpful for AI to try to interpret and
Yeah.
give you back.
Not unless you
Here's a
gave
s-
it the underlying XML.
No, you don't give it the XML.
I'm just saying it can't be done at this moment.
You wouldn't give it the XML either.
Okay, so it can't write scripts. It can write pseudo scripts, but not scripts. That would be my takeaway.
Yeah, talk to Vince, because he's looked into that a little more. The thing is with the XML, because if you look at the save a copy as XML, when you actually are writing a script, you have a script catalog, and then you have script steps that are a part of that, and they're not really close together in the XML. So what you would have to prompt the AI, say, look, here's where you look for the script, here's where you look for the script steps. It really needs to be more of a text base, as if you had printed out a PDF of that script and said, here are the steps I did, and here's a sample of my script. Now write me a script using either the same steps or similar steps, point it to the help or something, that it would be totally different. I don't think the XML would help at all. I think it would be worse, because one, you're feeding it a lot of data that eats up your tokens to actually process, and it's too convoluted. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's here, there to pull things together. So I wouldn't use the XML for
Well, I wouldn't
AI.
write scripts through ChatGTP because it can be done already easier. I'm just saying it goes
Right.
to the question of use cases, and there's,
Right.
if you're a FileMaker developer, what are you doing? You're not in a text-based development environment. You're not writing PHP, Ruby, or any of those things which are essentially text. Therefore, it's limited in that regard. I don't want to, be too mean to AI. I'm just saying that it's one of many technologies that the FileMaker developer community should be looking at. It's only one. It is the latest, greatest. It's the new shiny, but I think that there's a lot of other things and use cases. That's what I would, to make the most of the AI conversation. I would like, tell me why, what am I going to use this for? It's interesting, but what's useful? That's my 2 cents.
Maybe the fact that AI can't write FileMaker scripts is good for the developers, because we'll still have jobs. Somebody needs to do it.
Good spin.
So,
Justin, one other area that you might consider is curl. The usable options for curl and how to set up an insert URL with curl is a little bit, maybe it's more than a little bit obtuse. It's it's certainly not English when you do it. But there are two parts of it. One of it is general curl, which seems to work with pretty much anything that you connect to. And then there is application specific curl, which is probably too difficult to get into. But knowing what the curl options are to get debugging information back, for example, having somebody who's really spent time with curl in general talk about that might be helpful.
Cool, yeah. I know we have done a bit with that, with different various APIs. I'm not sure if anybody would be considered themselves experts, but does anybody feel like they would have enough knowledge on curl to either present on it or speak to it?
Nobody's speaking up.
Take that as an opportunity. All right. So, is there anything else on the AI front that we feel we should discuss or bring up in a future CFDG? Or do you think we kind of nailed it with what we've talked about so far.
I think
There's one
dissecting.
non-AI thing on, I don't know if anybody else is interested in it, but I found it useful, was OAuth 2. In the integration section, there was a presentation on how to simplify OAuth 2 in FileMaker. And there was actually a demo file in there that I found very useful. When I opened it up, I said, oh, that's how you do it.
Good point. And is that referring to the OAuth 2 emailing or just OAuth 2 like authentication to get into the database?
It was OAuth 2 integrations by Brian, another last name I can't pronounce. OU.
We met.
Yeah, okay.
Cool. Definitely we'll check that out.
I'll drop his name in the chat.
Thanks, Tony.
I think it's Brian we met, right?
Yeah.
It's probably
Well,
French.
I
so-
can't pronounce the last name, but I'll take your word for it.
So is there anything else that we would like to discuss today that we haven't so far? Some homework that I'm going to take away from this is I wrote down the videos that everybody recommended. I'm going to post that to the group with the links of those videos. And then I'll also read through the comments and post all of the interesting links from the comments on there as well, so that we can all have that information. For next month, I think AI is definitely the new shiny object that we're all interested in. Paul, I think it would be great if you would be available to do it next month to show us what you found.
Okay.
Your findings, I think that would be great. And then maybe collectively as a group, we can put together some do some research on AI, maybe look at some of the videos and play with it a little bit to show and tell a little bit on that front.
I think digging deeper into Ronnie Rios's demo file would be helpful. One of the things I thought was interesting that I didn't fully understand, like I got the concept, but not was the idea that you can use AI to do sensitive internal stuff on your data without exposing your data. There's a technique
Yes.
there that people seem to be very familiar with. And I sort of said, hell, that sounds like a good idea. But if I had to sit down and do it, I wouldn't know how. And I think Ronnie Rios's demo might really help us kind of understand better how that actually works. I'm sort of with Tony that I'm interested in like curl. I've used curl to the extent that I've needed it, right? And but I don't know the other parts. Well, same thing with AI, like understanding better kind of. I don't have yet enough familiarity that I'm sort of thinking creatively as to how to use it. And I think that if we could do more hands-on stuff, I think it might help people say, oh, I could picture using that in this particular. I mentioned that I talked to an AI vendor. I was recently at a Connecticut, it was a small business summit organized by the state of Connecticut. And it was, I spoke to a guy who's for 15 years, they've adapted their company that all they do is build AI models for companies. And I was asking him a whole bunch of questions, but they're actually taking open source AI models and training them. And, you know, he mentioned things like car rental companies and different types of companies that were using it to optimize their transactions. And he was sort of saying a typical job that they would do for people was sort of from the $60,000 to $150,000 range. I mentioned we had some databases where we had data that, you know, had 150,000 records. And was that enough? And he said, oh, yeah, that's plenty, you know, to work with. So I think there's a lot of use cases out there for the right business application, but it's too vague for me yet to think of it creatively. And I think the more we could sort of peel the onion, I personally would find that very helpful.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
think
so-
the idea with the calculations of functions and the script step building is for the new user, the junior developer who is maybe doesn't have a lot of years and they come up, well, I think this would work, and then make them go back and verify that it will work because you don't always get the right answer, but it might be a good learning tool from that perspective.
If you could write while functions for us, it'd be great.
Yeah. Cool. So for next month, we'll dive deeper into AI. That'll be our discussion point. Looking at the calendar, how does May 29th sound to everybody?
How close is that to Memorial Day?
It's 2 days after.
Day after.
Okay.
Robert, I know you're going to be out of town then, but
or on my way to the airport.
But the week before, both John and I are going to be out. So
Right.
And the week before that, there's a Claris thing on actually an add-in for AI.
No, and I have no objections whatsoever that the 29 can be just fine.
I think I'm fine with the 29th personally.
all right. So we'll plan on the 29th. We'll chat about AI. I will send to the group channel all of the videos that people recommended with their links and everything from the chat, all the links from the chat that are interesting. And then we can go from there.
We have as many new links from this meeting today as we had in Engage.
Sorry about that.
If somebody
been
goes
great.
through and watches all of these videos, then they get the gold star.
And
Yeah.
you can watch them at 1.5 speed, which I did on some of them to kind of get to where I understand what they're saying, but then I slow it down where I need to make sure I capture it. Like
Yeah.
if you listen to Lucy when she's talking with Clay, she talks very slowly, and I did double time on her, and it was perfect.
Cool.
And as you're watching them, make a transcript. Just kidding.
There should already be transcripts, I think.
Are there? Is
I
that
think
true?
so. I think that was part of it.
They have
That would
closed
be.
captioning.
Oh, I heard closed caption. I guess I can go find out. Does anyone know? Okay, so I did hear that there was closed caption. What I would be wondering is, does that mean I have to watch the video to read to watch the? Because I haven't tested this. I have a theory that if I'm presented with a 1-hour video and I've gotten a decent amount of sleep, that I can read the text of that video in about 20 minutes, like 3x. You know what I'm saying? And that's more on the thing I was harping on earlier. It's like, please, I don't have 54 hours. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't believe there's a text-only version of them.
And just
Of
in
the
terms of
material.
what the technologies that are available, we talk about technology. I think maybe we should, Claris should perhaps use it because the transcripts that are provided by YouTube are downloadable. And so you take that and you say, like, here's the transcript. Hey, AI, you've got a whole language model. Take this transcript, fix it, punctuations, because, it doesn't always pick up the audio correctly, and then format it, and then integrate it with the links. I'm not asking much. This is AI. It's magical.
Sounds
Show
like
me
you
the
have a
freaking
project
magic.
cut out for you, Tony.
I'm project manager. I do no work. I'm an idea kind of guy. No, I told the person at FileMaker, I'm like, you all have a bigger staff than I do. And I also here's a funny joke here. Before the conversation went too deep, I said, I know that FileMaker Claris has limited resources. I just wanted to say that first because I knew that was coming. So I said it first. Limited resources. We all do.
I think the paid version that people got, that I think those links don't exist anymore. I think with those, they did have the transcripts there. So they do have the transcripts somewhere. They just haven't exposed them to us, to the general public.
Well, that would seem counterproductive.
Yep. Anyway, is there anything else, or shall we call it here and regroup next month?
I think we're good.
Yep, next month is good.
Sounds great.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
the
all.
My
show.
dog wants to go out, so.
All right, thank you very much.
Right.
I really appreciate all the feedback on Engage. I think we have a lot of valuable information here, and look forward to chatting more about AI next week.
Great.
All right.
Thank you,
very
everyone.
much.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Okay, everyone. Bye.